My brother smirked. My son wants it more. Then drove away with my son's birthday gift. When I called the police, my dad grabbed my phone and said, "Don't do this to family." I looked at him and said, "You just made this much worse." Hello everyone. My name is Claire Dawson. I'm 36 years old, and the worst part of my son's 9th birthday wasn't watching him cry. It was watching my older brother smile while causing it. He looked at my son, then at the brand new electric dirt bike I'd spent 6 months saving to buy. His own son pointed at it and said, "I want that one." My brother laughed, then shrugged. My son wants it more. Before anyone could stop him, he loaded my son's birthday present into the back of his pickup truck, started the engine, and drove away. As I pulled out my phone to call the police, my father snatched it from my hand. "Don't you dare call the police on your own brother." I calmly took my phone back, finished speaking with the dispatcher, then looked Dad straight in the eyes. "You just made this a whole lot worse." Looking back, none of this started with a birthday party. It started years earlier. My brother Kevin had always been the favorite. He was 4 years older than me, confident, loud, the kind of person who assumed every room belonged to him. Mom adored him, Dad admired him. If Kevin made a mistake, someone else usually fixed it. If I made one, I was expected to fix it myself. After Kevin became a father, the favoritism simply continued. His son, Logan, was treated like the center of the universe. My son, Ethan, was expected to understand. Every Christmas, Logan opened more presents. Every family vacation, Logan chose the activities. Every birthday, someone eventually reminded Ethan to share, even when the toy belonged to him. At first, Ethan never complained. He simply smiled, but children notice more than adults think. One evening, when he was 7, he quietly asked, "Mom, does Grandpa like Logan more?" I smiled sadly. "No, he just, one shows it differently." Even as I said those words, I wasn't sure I believed them. My husband, Mark, worked as a firefighter. Long shifts, late nights, he adored Ethan. We weren't rich, but we planned carefully. When Ethan saw a limited edition electric dirt bike at a local dealership, his eyes lit up. "I know it's expensive. I don't expect it. I just think it's really cool." He never asked again. That night, Mark and I looked at each other. We can do it. It meant canceling our anniversary trip, working overtime, skipping extras for months, but seeing Ethan's face would make every sacrifice worth it. We secretly reserved the bike, paid for it little by little. 6 months later, it was finally ours. The dealership even wrapped a giant blue bow around the handlebars. On Ethan's birthday morning, he walked into the garage, stopped, covered his mouth. "No way." He ran toward us, hugged both of us so tightly, I thought we'd all fall over. "I'll take care of it forever. I promise." I believed him. That afternoon, we hosted a small backyard birthday party. Just family, cake, hamburgers, ice cream. Everything seemed peaceful until Kevin arrived. Logan immediately spotted the bike. "Dad, I want that." Kevin laughed. "Maybe for Christmas." Logan crossed his arms. "No, I want that one." He pointed directly at Ethan's bike. Kevin walked over, examined it. "Nice." I smiled politely. "Thanks." Ethan's been dreaming about it. Kevin looked at Logan, then back at me. "My son likes it." I laughed because I assumed he was joking. "I know. It's pretty awesome." He didn't laugh. Instead, he calmly said, "My son wants it more." I stared at him. "What?" "He'll appreciate it more." I honestly thought I'd misunderstood. "Kevin, it's Ethan's birthday." "So? It's just a bike?" "No, it's my son's bike." Mom immediately stepped in. "Claire, Logan is younger. He'll outgrow it faster." I blinked. What does that even mean? Dad shrugged. "You can always buy another one." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Mark quietly walked over beside me. He folded his arms. "Nobody is taking our son's birthday gift." Kevin ignored him. Instead, he picked up the bike, rolled it toward his truck. Ethan's eyes filled with panic. "Uncle Kevin, please don't." I waited so long. Kevin smiled. "You're a good kid. You'll understand." "No, he won't." I stepped in front of the truck. "Put it back." Kevin sighed dramatically. "Don't embarrass everyone. You already did that." Without another word, he lifted the bike into the truck bed, closed the tailgate, started the engine. Ethan began crying, not loudly, just enough to break my heart. As Kevin slowly drove toward the gate, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered. "911, what's your emergency?" "My brother has just taken property belonging to my son without permission." Before I could continue, Dad grabbed my wrist, then snatched the phone. "What are you doing?" He immediately ended the call. "Don't you dare call the police. He's your brother." I looked at him calmly. then quietly held out my hand. My phone. No. It's family business. I didn't argue. I simply took one step forward, looked him directly in the eyes, then said, "My phone." Something in my voice made him hesitate. A second later, he handed it back. I immediately called 911 again. The same dispatcher answered. "I'm sorry, my call was interrupted." She calmly replied, "That's all right. Please continue." I gave Kevin's full name, his truck description, the license plate number, and explained exactly what had happened. The dispatcher thanked me, then quietly said, "Officers have already been notified. They'll attempt to locate the vehicle." I ended the call. Dad stared at me in disbelief. "You actually reported him?" I nodded. "You interrupted an emergency call." His expression changed. "What?" I quietly answered. "You just made this a whole lot worse." The backyard became completely silent. Mom looked terrified. Mark wrapped one arm around Ethan. In the distance, Kevin's truck disappeared around the corner, completely unaware of what was already happening behind him. Sometimes, people mistake kindness for permission, but the moment someone decides they're entitled to take what belongs to your child, they've crossed a line that love alone can't erase. As the dispatcher quietly confirmed that officers had already been sent to locate my brother's truck, I realized my family's biggest mistake wasn't stealing my son's birthday present. It was believing I'd let them get away with it. The backyard remained completely silent. Dad still stared at me. "You actually called the police?" I nodded. "Yes." Mom stepped forward. "It's only a birthday gift." I looked at her. "No, it's my son's property, and someone stole it." She shook her head. "Families don't do this to each other." I answered quietly, "No, families also don't steal from 9-year-olds." Nobody had a response. Ethan stood beside Mark, wiping tears from his face. He whispered, "Mom, am I getting my bike back?" I knelt in front of him. "I'll do everything I can. I promise." About 15 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the responding officer. "Mrs. Dawson?" "Yes, we've located the truck." My heart skipped. "And? The bike is still in the truck bed. We've asked your brother to remain where he is while we sort this out." "I'll be there." Mark squeezed my shoulder. "I'll drive." Dad immediately stepped forward. "We're coming too." I looked at him. "No, you've done enough." We drove 20 minutes across town. Kevin's truck was parked in the lot of a sporting goods store. 2 police vehicles stood beside it. Kevin looked furious. The moment he saw me, he shouted, "You actually sent the police after me." One officer immediately raised a hand. "Sir, lower your voice." Kevin pointed toward the bike. I was borrowing it. The officer calmly asked, "Did the owner give you permission?" "No, but he's my nephew." "That's not what I asked." Kevin looked irritated. "No." The officer made a note, then turned toward me. "Can you identify the property?" I smiled sadly. "The blue bow is still tied to the handlebars. It has my son's name engraved beneath the seat." The officer looked underneath. There it was, Ethan Dawson, purchased 2 weeks earlier by the dealership. The officer nodded. "This appears to belong to your son." Kevin laughed. "This is ridiculous. It's family." The officer answered calmly, "I don't enforce family arguments. I enforce the law." He instructed Kevin to unload the bike. Kevin refused. "I'm not touching it." So the officers removed it themselves. As soon as the wheels touched the ground, Ethan ran forward. He wrapped both arms around the handlebars, then quietly whispered, "I thought I'd never see you again." Even one of the officers smiled. The lead officer turned back toward Kevin. "I strongly suggest resolving future disagreements without taking property that doesn't belong to you." Kevin finally muttered, "Fine." Then he looked directly at me. "You've embarrassed me." I answered calmly, "No, you embarrassed yourself." Back at my parents' house, the family gathered again that evening, not to celebrate, to argue. Mom paced the living room. "You ruined this family." I quietly looked around the room. "No, I protected my son." Dad finally spoke. "You could have handled this privately." I looked directly at him. "I tried." He drove away. "You hung up my emergency call." Silence. Then, something unexpected happened. My nephew Logan slowly walked into the room. He looked at Ethan, then quietly said, "I'm sorry." Everyone turned toward him. My dad told me, if I wanted something badly enough, someone else would give it to me. His little voice trembled. I didn't know he'd steal it. The room became painfully quiet. Mark gently placed a hand on Logan's shoulder. "None of this is your fault." Logan nodded, then hugged Ethan. "I'm sorry." Ethan hugged him back. "It's okay. Children often understand fairness better than adults." Dad slowly sat down. He buried his face in his hands. "I've spent years making excuses for Kevin. No more." He looked directly at his son. "You owe your sister and your nephew a real apology." Kevin folded his arms. I'm not apologizing. Dad quietly stood. For the first time in your life. That's going to cost you. Everyone looked confused. Dad reached into his desk drawer. He removed several business folders. I've decided to retire next year. Kevin smiled. About time. Dad shook his head. I was planning to sell you the company. Kevin's smile disappeared. I've changed my mind. The room froze. You don't deserve something you've never respected. Kevin stared in disbelief. You can't be serious. Dad answered quietly. I've never been more serious. Weeks later, Dad sold the business to 2 longtime employees who had helped build it for decades. They worked hard. They earned it, exactly as Dad said they had. Kevin spent months furious. But eventually, even he admitted one thing. I should have put the bike back. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was a beginning. Epilogue. Soft piano becomes lighter, carrying healing instead of anger. It's been 3 years since Ethan's 9th birthday. That blue dirt bike still sits in our garage. It's scratched now, covered in mud. Exactly as a well-loved bike should be. Every birthday since then, Ethan has asked for only one thing. Can we celebrate at home? We always do. Just close friends, people who make him feel safe. As for Dad, he changed more after that day than I ever expected. Not because the police came, because he finally watched his own grandson cry over something adults could have prevented. He never stayed silent again. Kevin and I aren't close. Trust doesn't return overnight, but our conversations are respectful. And he never again assumed he could take what wasn't his. My thoughts. Looking back, the bike was never the biggest issue. The real problem was teaching a child that his happiness mattered less than someone else's demands. Children watch everything. They remember who stood up for them, who stayed silent, and who told them they were worth protecting. That birthday taught my son something I hope he never forgets. Being kind doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you. And loving your family never requires sacrificing your child's sense of safety, fairness, or dignity. Sometimes, the greatest gift a parent can give isn't the present itself. It's showing their child that when someone treats them unfairly, Mom will always stand beside them,